All right, hey everybody. We're having kind of a difficult night tonight, little technical difficulties, but we're gonna push our way through it and still find a way to talk about these games. I'm Ryne Gallacher, Tallapoosa County and Coosa County sports writer, and this is Caleb Turrentine. He's the Elmore County sports writer. Caleb, it's been one of those weeks, I guess, that football is just they just don't want it to happen. I mean, we've had a crazy season so far with COVID, but it's been an even crazier week this week, and we can't blame COVID for this one.
Yeah, the amount of expected rain, the hurricane coming in. We've had games getting canceled for COVID. We've had games getting canceled for hurricane. We've had games moved all the way up to Wednesday. This week started last night with Saraland beating Gulf Shores. So, the week of football already started on a Wednesday night, and now it's Thursday. Everything's just mixed up. But, hey, I'm ready to get started. I love some Thursday night football.
Well, let's go ahead and get started, like you said, with some games getting canceled for multiple reasons. Let's go ahead and start there and go with the games that you have canceled over in Elmore County.
Yeah, it was just 6 hours before kickoff, and I got the report that Tallahassee was going to have to cancel their game tonight at Talladega. Real tough news for Tallahassee because they had a chance to clinch a playoff spot with a win tonight. They haven't been in the playoffs since 2017. All they needed was a win tonight, and they were in. I personally think that they were a better team than this Talladega team. They really could have gone out there and gotten the win. And now they have to forfeit that. That's a region loss. And due to the 14-day quarantine period, they're going to have to forfeit next week's game to Holtville, which is good news for Holtville fans as they're basically in the playoffs now at 3-1. Not technically clinched yet, so I got to be careful with my wording there. And so Tallahassee is looking at a spot where they're 2-3 in region play, and they're going to come back after not playing for 2 weeks and have to play against Clay Central with the playoff spot on the line. So just a really, really tough break for Tallahassee, who went from being in the region title hunt to now, needing an upset victory to the playoffs. So it's just been a tough day for Tallahassee.
Well, especially since Tallahassee got off to a really slow start, and then those last two games had really come on, and were starting to build momentum for themselves. And as bad as they got off to, they were still in the playoff hunt, and this just really takes them out of it and kind of just deflates them, and kind of a lost season at this point for them.
Yeah, for sure. It's tough. It's just I don't want to get too much into it because when I called Coach Battles earlier, it was just a very quick reaction. He said he was still kind of stunned. The whole team was. So it's going to be interesting how it sits over the next week and what they do to come back.
Well, let's go ahead and talk about the game that you're at right now. Go ahead and tell everybody where you're at and what you're expecting from the game.
I'm here in Clanton. Chilton County is hosting Wetumpka behind me as we have a nice little elevated view tonight. So I thought it would be nice to see the stadium behind me. Chilton County had to forfeit their last game against Helena. Had to cancel it due to COVID, and it was not because of a quarantine period, but they just thought that they didn't have enough time, enough players to get prepared for that game. And this week, it's still kind of hitting them hard. They have quite a few players and starters out, specifically in the skill position area. Wetumpka should be looking into putting this game away early and maybe even pulling away from it because Chilton County, at a 6A level, you can't really lose that many players, I guess, and expect to compete on another team that has, twice your depth all of a sudden now that you've lost so many starters. So it's just tough for Chilton County too, but they're probably happy because they had to forfeit last week and they're getting to play this week, and getting to play is obviously a step in the right direction. So maybe that is some momentum that they can take into tonight.
Well, Wetumpka's not going to feel sorry for them because Wetumpka already went through that themselves. And against Benjamin Russell, they didn't have 11 starters on both sides of the ball combined, and they went out and won that game. So there's no excuses, but at the same time, you do feel kind of bad for a Chilton team that's kind of been struggling here in recent weeks. And we got one more game going on tonight, Thursday night, before we get into tomorrow night's Holtville game. We'll talk about the Chambers at Edgewood game. A real big chance for Edgewood to clinch to get a win over a undefeated team that's kind of just steamrolling everybody right now.
Yeah. Chambers is really, really, really. I can't give enough really to how good this team has been this year. They have the highest scoring offense in all of AISA so far. They're averaging over 40 points a game. That's against pretty good teams. I mean, they haven't even come close. Their closest game was a 25-point win 2 weeks ago. So Edgewood definitely has its hands full. But this Edgewood team, coming into the year, this was a game that they were expected to compete in. It's been a little bumpy. I still don't know about the Alex Johnson news, if he's going to be starting tonight or if it's going to be Austin Champion. But this team still has the talent. Chambers is a tough task, but you get them at home. maybe help your case out a little bit. And if Edgewood wants a home playoff game in the first round, they have to win tonight. And that seems like a not very fair thing to do. But when you put yourself in a hole with the loss to Macon East, now you got to beat Chambers. If they beat Chambers, they're still in it, for a region title. But if they lose to Chambers, they're more than likely going to be the 3 or 4 seed and have to go on the road in that first round.
Yeah, you touched on it a little bit. Chambers' offense has been special this year, and scoring at 272 points. But then their defense only letting up 45 on the whole year. That's a huge difference. Defense is shut out.
22 of those in one game.
Right, and the defense shut out. They shut out. Yeah, they shut out 3 or 4 teams this year. They shut out the play on both sides of the ball. But Edgewood, they're a feisty group. They've had a little bit of an up and down here, but this is an important game for them. I think they're sitting 1-1 in region play, but so is everybody else. I think in that AISA 2A region 1. Even this Chambers team is only 1-0 in region play, so they're going to probably pull away if they get this win tonight. But if Edgewood's able to pull off the upset, everybody is still in it, so it should be an interesting matchup. And that's probably going to be a high scoring game. I expect Edgewood to put up some points.
Yeah, I do too. I think that they can, and I think that's the game that they want to play. Oddly enough, usually when you're the underdog, you want to play in a slow them down, grind game, and just keep the game close. I don't think that's what Edgewood wants. If Chambers gets to the point where they can just sit on the ball and run it over and over again, it's going to become a blowout. If Edgewood can score, keep Chambers throwing the ball, back and forth scores, Edgewood's going to have a chance. Edgewood probably wants this total to be near 70 or 80 points between the two teams. If it's lower than that, I think Chambers probably is running away with it.
Okay, and then let's move on to tomorrow's game. We got Clay Central traveling to Hopeville. Should be a real interesting game, actually. It's going to be an exciting one. Clay Central, the back-to-back defending 5A champions, versus a Hopeville team who's, now they're really looking back on that Beauregard loss and just really kicking themselves. They're 5-1 right now. They're just looking like a real good football team, and they could be right there undefeated with Clay Central, who compete for that top spot.
Yeah, fortunately for Hopeville with that Beauregard loss is that it doesn't really affect them. They still control their own destiny in the region. They have to beat Clay Central and they have to beat Sylacauga, 2 teams ahead of them or tied with them in Sylacauga's case in the standings. And if they beat them both, then they're going to win the region. That's just, they'll go 5-1. They'll win the region if they beat those 2 teams. So controlling your own destiny is something that Hopeville probably hasn't done this late in the season in a very, very long time. So. They're excited. They still understand how big of a task this is. But over the past couple of years, every time Hopeville seems to be ready to make that jump, they play against a really good team. And Coach Jason Franklin said that sometimes those names and those bigger teams just kind of intimidated them on paper, and they didn't come out to play. I think it'll help that they're at home. I think there's a little bit of confidence that goes with that this year with Hopeville, and really in the past couple of years. And I don't know. It's tough to say that they can pull it off. Clay Central is still a really, really good team. But Clay Central is beatable in the regular season. We've seen that. We saw them lose to Pleasant Grove. They had 2 losses last year. They had 3 losses the year before that, and they still won state championships. But you can show up and beat them in the regular season. And, if Hopeville wants to take that next step, they could shock a lot of people in the state by winning tomorrow night.
Yeah, I think that Clay Central is a team that could be had. They don't overwhelm you with athletes. They overwhelm you with scheme and just throwing a bunch of different formations at you on offense, trying to confuse you, and just with the spread and everything, it can be confusing for kids that are only in the 9th and 10th, even 11th grade. That are still getting used to playing football at that higher level. Is there anything else about Elmore County you want to talk about before we move on to the Tallapoosa and Coosa County games?
I will keep saying that the region standings are something to keep an eye on, and obviously we're going to have part of it done tonight and part of it done tomorrow. And then Elmore County, who's on a bye week, that if there was a silver lining, I'm sure they're not happy about it, but the Tallahassee forfeits kind of keeps Elmore County in the playoff race per se, but they still have to win out, of course. And Beauregard, Talladega, Elmore County, Tallahassee, those are going to be those 4 teams fighting for one spot all of a sudden with these forfeits. So that's definitely something to look forward this weekend. Obviously not from Tallahassee and Elmore County, but pay attention to that region, look at those results, because that's going to be something to really, really get close together and come down to the wire this year.
Right. Normally we'd go on a break, but since it's a later start, we're just going to go ahead and jump right into my games. We're going to talk about Benjamin Russell at Pelham. That's where I'm at right now. And I got to say, I love this fall football weather. It is perfect. I mean, I went on the golf course the other day to cover something for the Outlook, and the weather was just beautiful. It's beautiful tonight. There's not a cloud in the
Talk
sky.
about the weather now, not tomorrow.
I know.
It's
the calm before the storm, I think what it is. It's one of the nicest days of the year, and it's going to follow by probably one of the worst. Hopefully not. We're going to be praying that everybody's doing okay. But a Benjamin Russell team that, is just desperate right now. They're 0-6 right now, coming off their bye week. Just really, they've been banged up so much all year. This gave them time to not only lick their wounds a little bit, but also gave some of those young guys that are going to be playing more time and more reps to just see what they're doing. Coming against a Pelham team that loves to run the triple option out of the spread, all kinds of ways, really, the pistol, the spread. They might get under center here and there for short yardage. So, it's all going to be about gap control and just being physical right here for Benjamin Russell. They get Onaje Brooks back. That's huge, 300-pound guy in the middle. That 3-3 defense is going to turn into a little bit of a 4-3, I think, right here for Coach. He wants to, be physical at the line of scrimmage. Young DBs right now, so going more with the zone, which is probably better than a man coverage anyway. You don't want those guys turning their backs to this quarterback. He's just going to take off on them. So, it's going to be a physical football game tonight. But Benjamin Russell, we're going to see how they hold up. Their last game was the only game that we've seen them get held in the passing game. It's the only time, and it was kind of vice versa of what had been going on all season. They hadn't been able to run the ball the first 4 or 5 games of the season, and then they were finally able to do that for a week or two, but just the defense gave up a lot of points. And now the offense wasn't able to pass the ball with the, big playability that they had been doing all year. So it's going to be an interesting game. If Benjamin Russell is probably going to jump out to a lead like they've done on everybody this year, will they be able to hold the lead? It's yet to be seen.
Well, that's a big question because obviously Pelham has been a second-half team. The last 2 weeks, they have dominated their second half. Last week against Wetumpka, they were down. They gave up 250 yards. They were outgained by 200 yards in the first half, and they came out and made it look easy in the second half and never really gave Wetumpka a chance to keep it close in the second half. So that's a team that doesn't really matter about the start. It matters how you finish. Benjamin Russell's got to come out strong. There might be something there where pressure is on Pelham because they haven't won a region title since 2006. They could win one tonight. That's a little bit of pressure. The desperation from Benjamin Russell's side, the bye week could play into them being a little bit more prepared. I think this is a little bit trickier than what it seems on paper, and I still pick Pelham to win. I think Benjamin Russell might be able to actually give them a fight and maybe stay closer in the second half than some teams have.
Well, it's not a matter of scoring for Benjamin Russell all year. It's just not being able to stop anybody. So that's just going to be the real question. Like you just said, this Pelham team's been a second-half team. That running, just aggressive running style for the whole game for 4 quarters just wears down on a defense, And then, we'll see if they try to take their shots deep. Probably not, because Benjamin Russell is athletic and tall at the receivers and DB position. But we'll see. But moving on, we're going to go talk about Reeltown at Beulah. Beulah, they've only played they had to forfeit 3 games, but then the 3 games they've played have shown glimpses of being a good football team, but just haven't shown to be consistent. 0-6 total is their record. But they played Trinity a couple weeks back, who was a really good football team that just really handled this Reeltown team last week, and they gave Trinity some trouble. A 73-yard touchdown run on the very first play from their quarterback. And Reeltown just looking last week like a team that I hadn't seen from this Reeltown team in years. They haven't lost back-to-back games since 2017, which is pretty good. And, I don't think that they will tonight. This is probably a get-back game against the 0-6 football team. But, that Reeltown's just been inconsistent this year, 3-3, and it just doesn't look – this one week they look like that team that went to the state championship, and then one week they look like the team that, would struggle in the playoffs probably and might not even vie for a playoff spot. Class 3 region – Class 3A Region 4, is
Right.
it's kind of all bunched up outside of that Trinity Catholic. It's all 2-2 records right now. So this is a big chance for them to try to make a name for themselves late in this thing and still stay competitive. The passing game last week just wasn't there. Trinity just got a good defense. There's something in the water, I guess, going on Montgomery with those 3A teams because their defenses are just next level right now. So we'll see if Reeltown can get back to their consistent selves. Coach Matt Johnson said that they haven't been practicing consistently, and that's just led to it on Friday nights, which is just completely understandable.
Yeah, I think being in the Montgomery region might be a good thing for Reeltown, because that just means you don't have to play them in the first round of the playoffs. You're not matched up with them. So, but no, obviously you're looking at this on paper, in Reeltown this should be an easy win. But the fact is, when it comes to an easy win, you have to take care of it and make it look easy. This isn't just about getting a win. You need to make it, get out there and actually play your best and win by 40 points, because you should beat this team by 40 points. You want to get some confidence going into the backstretch. Like you said, that playoff spot still isn't secured, so you got to take care of it. And even though it is a Beulah team, you watching film, on paper, in person, I'm sure everyone will say Reeltown should win, but you actually got to go do it.
Right, and the Reeltown's mistakes last week were a lot of self-inflicted. The very first score of the game was they let up 2 safeties last week. The very first score of the game was a safety that the ball just snapped over the punter's head and went to the end zone. So, they've got to correct themselves and not worry about as much as what the other team's doing, but kind of just worry about what they're doing right now, since they're so inconsistent from a week-to-week basis. That's it for tonight's games, but moving on to tomorrow's games, we got Trinity at Dadeville. Like I said, that Trinity football team just kind of handled that Reeltown team. But Dadeville's coming off a 53-0 win against Goshen, and they're feeling pretty good about themselves on a 3-game winning streak. They're 4-2 right now. That Dadeville Tiger team. They're a team to be feared. They play smart football. They got the band going right in front of me, so it's a little loud.
Yeah, I should have told you. I knew that's where they came in. I should have told you sooner.
Yeah, you should have.
We're good. We can.
Dadeville plays a smart brand of football. They run the football time of possession and just try to wear you down, kind of like how we talk about this Pelham team likes to do to people. And so by the third and fourth quarter, other teams are just tired and just gassed by getting moved around. It's physical smash mouth football. So that should be interesting and a really good game. Trinity, they're up competing for that top spot with Catholic, so they don't want to let up either. They got a lot they're trying to fight for, home field advantage throughout that. So it should be a real team. This is a chance for Dadeville to try to move their way up into that ranking and do something good for themselves.
Yeah, I think this is very similar when you're looking on the other side that we were talking about, the Holtville-Clay Central game. I think obviously Holtville-Clay Central are 2 better teams than Dadeville-Trinity, but in the same situation that this is an opportunity for Dadeville. If you win, yes, we all know it's going to be an upset. You probably shouldn't win this game. But you have an opportunity to really go out there and compete against a team that a lot of people see as better than you, and you can, make it a statement and go out there and compete and really start feeling good about this backstretch where they are certainly looking to ease into the playoffs and not have to, fight for it and not have to wait it out, for other results. They want to earn it themselves, and they have an opportunity to do that.
Right. And then the last game we're going to talk about is Lafayette traveling to Horseshoe Bend, homecoming for Horseshoe Bend. So if you're in the area, you should go and check them out. The battle of the 1 and 5s right now. So it's just really about pride right now and building for the future, and getting your seniors, maybe some trick plays here and there. But that's not the case with that may be the case with Lafayette, but that's not the case with Horseshoe Bend, who's, a young football team. They're still building for the future. I was talking to Coach Jeremy Phillips this week, and he says that they've last year and what they weren't very competitive at times. That's how he felt, and it really disappointed them. This year they've moved to competitive. They've lost every game by 1-score games, just about every game but 1 or 2, and then now he thinks that they're trying to move towards going into the winning phase. That's what he's calling it, the winning phase. And so that's just finishing out those football games, learning how to win those close football games, and just making enough plays when you need them the most.
Yeah, and you're talking about it being a pride thing when you're at 1 and 5, but when you're playing in a region game, you should, if you have an opportunity to beat one of those other teams in your region, when you're kind of on the bottom, those are games that you wait for all year. Obviously you want to compete against the big teams and the teams that are, quote unquote better than you, but these are the games that you're really circled and really excited for, because you want to get out there and you have a better chance to win. You want to play for it, and I think that Horseshoe Bend has the opportunity to do that. And no one wants to leave the playoff race, technically this early. So get a win, you're still technically in it. You never know.
Well, technically they still are in it. They needed some help. They need to win out, and they need a little bit of help. But they're still in the playoff race. But Coach Phillips, he's proud of the effort that these guys have put in. They've stepped up a lot. They've had a lot of linemen hurt, and they've stepped up. And they've had other playmakers step up, just the Holt Tidwell and the Gavin Brazzles of the world. They've had Cameron McNabb step up, the Cullen twins step up, and so they just got more playmakers going for them. And they played their best football, it seems like, against teams that they shouldn't even be in those competing against. And that's kind of how Coach Phil talks about how they're in that competitive stage right now. And so they're competing in all their games. They just don't know how to win them. And they played Randolph County. That's ranked number 1 right now. And they know they played them real tough for the half of football. The first half of the game, they were winning, Horseshoe Bend was, and then gave up, the second half, kind of let up on them. But then, they got a Lynette team coming up here in a couple weeks. That's, I'm pretty sure, still ranked in the top 10. So they're going to, it's going to be a tough game for them as well. So, these games are important for building confidence, and that surely would be a confidence booster getting a win right here.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, on behalf of Tallapoosa Publishers, we're going to go ahead and sign off. I'm Ryne Gallacher. That is Caleb Turrentine. Be sure to keep up with us during the game with hashtag TPI Preps on Twitter, and we will be giving you live updates constantly. You guys be safe out there and have a good weekend.